My name is Cindy Sanders, and welcome to Food Checkout Week. I am the IFAS Extension Director, and I'm going to introduce to you some of our other agents here in our office in Alachua County. Martha Maddox is our Family Consumer Science Agent. Dr. Tatiana Sanchez is our Commercial Horticulture Agent. And Dr. Kevin Corris is our Ag and Natural Resource Agent. We're here today to talk to you a little bit about the Food Checkout Week that's sponsored by Florida Farm Bureau. Every year in February, Farm Bureau sponsors a food checkout week. And the reason behind it is it's a time to celebrate the abundance of fresh food as well as nutritious food here, not only in Alachua County, but in the state of Florida. The average American household spends less than 10% of their income on food. And I always want to stress that in the United States, we have not only the safest, but most abundant food supply. Alachua County agriculture actually is a $255 million value added impact to the citizens of Alachua County. So I always tell everybody, you have to get outside of Gainesville to see the agricultural production in Alachua County. So at this time, I'm going to call on my fellow agents to talk to you a little bit about some products that are grown here in Alachua County, and also tell us the nutrition value of those products, as well as perhaps maybe how to use those products in your home. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Tatiana Sanchez, our Commercial Horticulture Agent.
Thank you, Cindy. Okay, thank you, Cindy. Hello, everybody. I'm Tatiana Sanchez, Commercial Horticulture Agent for Alachua County from IFAS Extension. I work directly with vegetable and fruit producers, as well as nurseries and landscape professionals. One of the main responsibilities that I have is to deliver education that will provide the production of, that would improve the production of commodities grown in the county. One of the commodities with higher acreage in our county is watermelon. And since this crop is so important for our area, today we're going to discuss how it is produced and the role of IFAS Extension in helping growers. The state of Florida is an important player in watermelon production nationwide. Just in Florida, about 25,500 acres are planted in watermelon each year. Although a lot of it is planted in South Florida, about 1/3 is grown in the Suwannee Valley area or region, including Alachua County. So everybody is familiar with watermelons, but how much do you know about them? Watermelon seeds have been found from as far back as 5,000 years ago. Watermelons could remain edible for weeks or even months if kept in a cool, shaded area. So watermelons, although tasteless back then, was used as a water source for the dry season or for long trips. Although wild watermelons were domesticated for water and food in northeastern Africa over 4,000 years ago, it wasn't until about 2,000 years ago in the Mediterranean that this fruit emerged as a sweet dessert. However, this fruit not always looked or tasted the same as it does today. Wild watermelons were originally watery, but had a hard texture with a pale flesh color, and it was either bland or bitter. So it has come a long way. The watermelon plant is a vine, and it has separate flowers. In the picture on the left, you can see that that male flowers develop first, so the pollen is available when the female flower opens and is receptive to pollen. In order to get fertilized, watermelons rely on pollinators such as honeybees. So you will always see honeybee hives along the fences of watermelon fields, and this is to ensure pollination and productivity of the crop. You may wonder, how is it that when you were growing up, you used to spit watermelon seeds, whereas now most watermelon in the market is actually seedless? So Watermelon is naturally a diploid plant, meaning they have two sets of chromosomes, just like we do. And so during cell division, breeders treat the diploid watermelon with a substance called colchicine. And so that substance enables the duplication of the number of chromosomes, resulting in a tetraploid plant, meaning they have four sets of chromosomes. When crossing them with a regular watermelon plant, then the resulting plant only has it has 1.5 times the number of normal chromosomes. So in other words, you end up with a triploid plant. And because they have an odd number of chromosomes, then they cannot form viable seed. And that's how we end up with seedless watermelon. Now, watermelon is growing around us here in Alachua County. How do they do this? About 1,000 acres are planted each year in the county, including High Springs, Newberry, Alachua, and Gainesville. The fields are prepared during February to have everything ready for planting. The field preparation includes forming raised beds that are covered with plastic mulch. Underneath that plastic, a tape of drip irrigation is located at the center of the bed to provide water throughout the season. In addition, an initial amount of granular fertilizer is placed while the bed is being formed to provide nutrients to the crop. Further applications of fertilizers are made through the season or later in the season by using the drip irrigation system, and this is called fertigation. Planting starts in early March and harvest goes from late May to July. Watermelons are typically started as transplants in greenhouses. These greenhouses are typically located either in South Florida or Georgia. And after growing them for about 5 to 6 weeks, the transplants are taken into the fields that have been previously prepared. You can see on the picture on the right, a watermelon field. You can see the raised beds covered with plastic mulch and the grow habit of the watermelon plants. These rows are spaced at about 8 feet, and then the plants are spaced anywhere between 2.5 to 3 feet apart within each row. So during the watermelon season, weekly updates are shared with our growers to keep them updated on nutrient, pest, and disease management recommendations, and we do this with a regional approach. So that regional approach is something that all of the extension agents in the Suwannee watermelon region do, so we can inform our growers of what's happening not only within their counties but also in the surrounding counties. I also visit farm fields on a weekly basis to monitor for nutrient levels, pests, and diseases, to have an accurate diagnosis of problems and recommend timely solutions. So during these weekly visits, besides scouting the fields, I collect the most recently matured leaf in about 20 plants per acre to measure the nutrient levels in the sap of the plants. So you can see what the most recently matured leaf looks like on the picture on the right of the screen. And so from these type of leaves, what I do is I remove the blade of the leaf and keep only the petiole. So the petiole is like this stem of the leaf. So once I have collected like a number of petioles, then I extract the sap, and using probes, I measure the levels of nitrogen and potassium that are in those petioles. So by collecting nutrient levels within the plant during the season, growers can fine-tune fertilizer applications to avoid excess application of nutrients and meet the crop nutrient requirements. At the end of the site visit, I meet with the farm manager or with the grower, and I discuss with him observations and recommendations. On occasions, I collect samples that are collected for further diagnosis on either nutrient and pest management issues, submit them to the lab, and subsequently follow up with the growers with recommendations. So this is how so far I've told you about how do we grow it. So now we're hitting the end of the season, which is harvesting time. It takes a lot of work to harvest a field of watermelon. Most watermelon producers contract migrant labor to complete this task. The agricultural workers typically start in the south end of the state, and then they move their way up north of the state as the fields become ready for harvest. During May and June, you have probably seen many school buses without windows driving around county roads. And these are the vehicles typically used to move fruit from the fields to the packing sheds. So the fruit is brought into the packing shed, they're rinsed, and then they're sorted by size and shipped out. So a survey conducted to watermelon growers in the service region, as well as representatives of the allied industry, gave us some information of what happened within the last watermelon season. 92% of respondents indicated that IFAS Extension services are an important part of their operation and contribute significantly to their economic success. 48% of them qualified for the economic benefit received to be in the range of $50 to $200 per acre, and an additional 20% of them qualified for the economic benefit received to be over $200 per acre. On average, our clientele used at least 3 services provided by Extension, with the highest ranked being one-on-one consultation with county faculty, SAP testing, and consultation with regional specialized agents. And, despite the current pandemic and all the challenges that came with it, 73% of our producers reported an excellent watermelon season. They express gratitude towards Extension agents as we continue to support them through the uncertainty and limitations associated with COVID-19. So I want to invite you to support local growers of watermelon and any of the other commodities produced in the county. You can always search for the label Fresh from Florida or ask your store for local produce. And every year, you can also participate in the Newberry Watermelon Festival. This year is going to be on Saturday, May 15. So I want to invite you to it. And with that, now, what do we know about the nutritional properties of watermelon? And here's when I want to introduce our next speaker, Martha Maddox. Thank you.
Thank you, Tatiana. I'm Martha Maddox. I'm the Family Consumer Science Agent here in Alachua County with IFAS Extension. And what I'm going to do today is talk to you about the nutritional value, how to practice good food safety guidelines, and how to use the different products that we buy locally. What are the nutritive values of watermelon? Well, watermelons are 92% water, which means that is a very good source for hydration, especially during the summertime. There's nothing better than a cool slice of watermelon. And if you do not like to drink a lot of water, you can eat a lot of watermelon. But I'm going to tell you this, if you're diabetic, you need to be very careful because watermelon is full of natural sugars, which will run your glucose level up. Also, watermelons are fat-free, they're sodium-free, and they're cholesterol-free. Now we're going to get into a minute talking about different enhanced flavor enhancers. And if you reach for the sodium, and this is the only time that I've probably reached for the sodium on something, is I grew up eating salt on watermelon. And when you do that, it is not sodium free. So keep that in mind. Watermelons are a good source of vitamin C, vitamin A, and they're a good source of lipinin.
These are antioxidants that help prevent the body against heart disease, inflammation, and some cancers. So watermelon is a good nutritional fruit to eat. If you have about 2 cups of watermelon, it has about 80 calories in it. Again, we talked it's 92% water. It has 8%, and this is based on a 2-cup serving. It has 8% of vitamin A, 6% vitamin B6, 25% vitamin C, 6% potassium, 6% manganese, and 6% magnesium. It has 8% thiamine, 2% phosphorus, 12.7% lipine, and it is sodium-free, fat-free, and cholesterol-free. So as you can see, watermelon is a good, nutritious choice when you're looking at a fruit choice. Now you're going to the grocery store and you're getting ready to buy your food. We want to know how to prepare it and how to store it. So when you go to select your watermelon, like Tatiana was talking about in the fields, a watermelon will lay on the ground. And when you're looking at the watermelons, if they have a yellow, creamy ground spots, what it's called, on that watermelon, that's a good indication that that watermelon is ripe. However, if there is not a creamy yellow ground spot, it's just green or white, that means the watermelon probably is not ripe. So you want to try to look for a riper watermelon that is green and has your yellow and your cream colored ground spot. Now, when you get home, before you put it in the refrigerator to chill, or especially before you slice it, you want to wipe the outside of the watermelon off with a clean cloth that has a little bit of slightly soapy water, and then wash that off with clean water. The reason you're doing this is to prevent cross-contamination. Because when you take that knife and you cut down through that skin, any bacteria, germs, dirt, whatever is on the outside of that skin will go into the flesh of your watermelon and you will eat it. So once you've cut your watermelon, you want to place it in the refrigerator. Now you can place it in the refrigerator whole and make sure you put some plastic wrap or foil around it. Or you can take it out of the shell and put it in a container and seal it up. Once you've put it in the refrigerator after you've cut it, it would normally store no longer than 1 week. Now let's talk about cooking. Did you ever think about cooking a watermelon? Most times people say, oh, I'm just going to eat a slice of watermelon. Well, it is great to enjoy just a delicious fresh slice of watermelon. Also, you can enhance the flavor of that sweet, juicy watermelon with salt or pepper or both, chopped mint, goat cheese. You can take and brush that slice of watermelon or wedge of watermelon with any flavor of olive oil or balsamic vinegar and throw it on a very hot grill. Make sure your grill is hot. If it is lukewarm, it will not sear. You're wanting, when you throw that watermelon slice on the grill, you're wanting it to have grill marks immediately. So it needs to be very hot, the grill does. You can also drizzle honey over your watermelon, or you can take and slice it and put it in a salad with citrus vinaigrettes. So now that leads us to how do we eat watermelon? Tatiana, did you ever think about having watermelon as a pizza?
No, not really.
Well, I never either. But one of the things that you can do is take and cut a round piece of watermelon. You can put cream cheese, you can put ham, tomatoes, you can put everything, you just use your imagination. Now, last summer I was doing a 4-H camp and I come across this and I tried it. Dr. Sanders, I know you love bacon and lettuce tomatoes, your BLT. What about a watermelon bacon lettuce sandwich? Substitute the tomato with the watermelon. You game?
Sounds
BLW.
It sounds interesting.
It's very good. It has become one of my favorite, and I can't wait to get watermelon season again. This is a real good one for if you've got grandkids or kids or you're entertaining. Watermelon kebabs with a piece of mozzarella cheese with chocolate and mint. That is really good. Here is the grilled watermelon that I talked about. You want to make sure you brush it with a little extra virgin olive oil or your balsamic vinegars and put it on that hot grill, and it uses grill marks. You can also take and cut the watermelon out of the rind, and you can frost it with a cream cheese icing and put strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, all kinds of things. Or a watermelon ice cream sandwich. Cut a wedge, holler it out in the middle, and put your favorite ice cream in it. The last three are probably some of my favorite other than the BLT, and that goes back up here to a salad. There's nothing better than a watermelon, blueberry, strawberry salad with feta cheese and mint. It's phenomenal. Also, I love my salmon, and I love to make a watermelon salsa with watermelon, avocados, and feta cheese, and let that set for at least an hour to marinate and put it over the salmon. And in the morning, a great smoothie with some mint in the blender, watermelon in the blender, kiwi in the blender, blend it up. You can even throw some fat-free yogurt in there, and you're ready to go. Now then, you really want a great snack for your kids or just for yourself. Experiment with watermelon popsicles. Kiwi and watermelon, blueberries, blackberries, just plain old watermelon, watermelon strawberry, watermelon cherry, vanilla, and pistachio ice cream popsicles. Put a little ice cream in there, pistachio ice cream, and then do this, or your watermelon and mint. You do not have to have professional watermelon cylinders to put it in. These are made in just some little cups that you have in stock. So now then, you know the nutritional value of watermelon, how to prepare it safely, and a few recipes. If you have any more questions, you can contact me at the Alachua County Extension Office, but I'm going to tell you like Tatiana did. I strongly encourage you to support our local farmers and our local growers and our local farmers markets. Go out and buy local and enjoy the delicious, fresh Alachua County and Florida watermelons. Now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Kevin Corliss, who's going to talk to us about peanuts.
Hello, my name is Kevin Corliss, and I am the Agricultural Row Crop Extension Agent for Alachua County. I don't know about you guys, but I sure want some watermelon popsicles now after seeing that presentation. Those look delicious. It's after lunch. It's time for a dessert. Actually, now we're gonna steer away from the fruits, and we're gonna talk about something else, the nuts, right? We're gonna talk about peanut production in Florida. And so many of you may not even know that there is peanut production in Florida, but the Southeast is one of the larger areas in the U.S. that has peanut production, mostly due to our sandy soils. I didn't realize till I moved down to Florida several years back that peanuts actually grow and develop underground, which is quite crazy. So they need kind of a looser soil to be able to grow and turn into a peanut. So sand works really well for growing peanuts. So first, let's just take a look at what the heck a peanut plant is. So here is basically the anatomy of a peanut plant. They have a compound leaf. So they actually have, it's not a trifoliate, I guess you'd call it a quadfoliate, because there's actually 4 leaflets per leaf. So what you're seeing here is an actual leaflet. And then it has these kind of pretty yellow flowers that will come out and bloom. And then from that flower, I will try to circle it there in red. You can see these pegs form, and they form from the same axil from which the flower was formed. And those pegs will eventually find their way down into the soil. And once they're in the soil, then they can actually produce the seed, that peanut that we eat. So it's very, very unique. You know, when you first pull up a peanut plant and you see all these fruits in its root system, you think it's like a potato, where it's got maybe a swollen root system. Well, it's not like a potato at all. The potato is a vegetative part of that particular plant. And this is the reproductive part. Peanuts are the reproductive part of the peanut plant, and they actually form underground, which is really, really unique. But the flower flowers above ground and then sends that peg down to the soil to get covered up. And so, yeah, and then we see the peanut that's formed. It's a dehiscent peanut, so it opens. There's 2 different cracks where it can open, and then you find the 2 little seeds inside that we enjoy to eat or make peanut butter out of or whatever. I'll have Martha talk about that. So some peanut stats for the US and here in Florida. So these are, the first 2 stats are from 2020, and I forgot to put the little disclaimer here on this page, but all of these statistics come from the USDA's National Agricultural Statistics Service, which is just online. So these are all USDA numbers. So in the United States in 2020, there were 1,615,800 acres of peanuts planted. So that's quite a bit. In Florida alone, we have 160,000 of those acres. And then in Alachua County, unfortunately, the last bit of data that I could find, or the most recent bit of data that I could find, was from 2007. So in 2007, we had about 3,400 acres of peanut. And that goes up and down just kind of based on the year, based on growers' rotations and things like that. So that's pretty average for what we have here in Alachua County. So how do we cultivate peanuts? How does it work? So peanuts are planted by seed, unlike watermelons, as Tatiana mentioned. Since we developed seedless watermelons, you can't harvest the seeds to replant, right? Because they're seedless. So she showed you the pictures of the little baby plants that they had growing in the greenhouse. We have to take those baby plants and transplant them in the field. Not so with peanuts. Peanuts are planted by seed, and they're usually drilled into the ground with this big planting equipment called a drill, a no-till drill. So we'll drill them into the ground, and that usually happens anywhere between April 25th to June 1st. The reason there's kind of a big gap in planting dates is just because of weather conditions, soil moisture, things like that, that we have to work around. Plus, it just also kind of depends on the type and variety of peanut that you're looking to grow. Here in Florida, we pretty much grow one variety of peanut, Georgia 06G. So there's not a lot of diversity in our cultivar selection or our peanut variety selection here. So our planting dates are typically in May for Florida, but in the US in general, it's between April 25th and June 1st. So we typically want to shoot for about 5 to 6 seeds per row foot if you're doing a single row. But many of the growers here in Florida have a twin drill. So they'll actually drill 2 rows right next to each other that are only a couple inches apart. And if that happens, then of course your seeds per row is cut down by half because you have 2 rows. So we recommend 3 rows per foot. So that's getting it planted. So then the cultivation of the plant. So as you can see in this picture and in the last picture, there's a lot of space in between these rows, right? And before we plant our peanut seeds in the ground, we try to make sure we have a perfectly prepared seed bed. So nothing but clean, flat, even soil, right? So then we come along with our planter and put the seeds in the ground. And for the first maybe even couple of months that plant is in the ground, there's a lot of space, as you can see. So when there's space and there's soil and there's sunshine and there's water, you're going to have weeds, right? So weed control during establishment is very important for peanut production. You want to make sure that, again, you have a weed-free, clean bed so that the peanuts that you put in there have the highest chance of success in germinating and turning into adult plants. Water management is also very important with peanuts. It's usually something that we think about in the mid-season. Early on, we don't want to irrigate too much, and we're still getting some rains during that time of the season. And then towards the end of the season, we also don't want to water too much either, especially after the peanut has basically it's completed its taking of the nutrients from the top of the plant. So it's going to send the sugars that it makes from the leaves through photosynthesis down into that peanut. And once that's done, we no longer need to irrigate. But during the middle of the season, when it gets really hot and nasty, like it does here in Florida, we need to keep track of where our moisture's at. And so that's one place where Alachua County Extension comes into play, or IFAS Extension, is we try to get out to growers and put soil moisture sensors in their field so that they can see exactly where their soil water content is throughout the growing season, and they can plan their irrigation accordingly. So then there's also two other things when cultivating peanuts. Insect control, which is a season-long endeavor, and there's many different types of insects that attack peanut. Thrips are probably one of the biggest ones, but you also get spider mites and aphids and all sorts of other things. There's also these microscopic worms that live in the soil called nematodes that can actually feed on the peg and the seed pod itself, which can just weaken that peg. And when you pull the plant up, the seeds remain in the soil. So that's not good. And then, of course, we have a plethora of plant diseases that we deal with throughout the season. Mostly the fungal ones are the ones that give us the most headache and the most grief. But there are some viral and even some bacterial diseases out there too that can take control of your peanut field. So we'll go into a little bit more depth on those. So some of these are probably the top 4 diseases that we deal with here in Alachua County or in Northeast Florida. As you go, in different regions of the United States and the Southeast US, you're going to find a different suite of diseases. But we could pretty much count on soybean rust coming into the picture every year, and you can see that in the top left-hand side of the screen. It's called rust because it has this orange-brown rusty color. And if you get enough of that fungus on that leaf, it'll just drop all its leaves. And then it won't be creating those photosynthates, those sugars to send down to the peanut, and you'll get really poor peanut production. If we go right down from that one, you see tomato spotted wilt virus. This is another common and major problem with growing peanuts here in Florida. And unfortunately, there's really no good control method for tomato spotted wilt virus. It is carried from plant to plant via an insect, but putting out insecticide to control that insect has not been efficacious. So pretty much what you have to do, if you see a plant in your field that has tomato spotted wilt virus, and you can see the very obvious symptoms, the circling, the concentric circles, and just the really odd growth, that's a very good indication of a viral infection. So you just got to rogue those plants out, get them out of the field and destroy them if you can, bury them or burn them, because you don't want that virus moving to other parts of your field that are uninfected. On the right side is more fungal diseases, and the top right corner is probably the number one thing that we're battling for peanuts here in the state is early and late leaf spot. It's caused by 2 different types of fungi. One comes on a little bit earlier in the season, and then the other one comes on a little bit later in the season. Early leaf spot, late leaf spot. They can be controlled with fungicides, and they are controlled very effectively with fungicides. So if you're growing peanuts in Florida, you basically have to, as soon as about a week before you start noticing these symptoms, you need to be out there with a fungicide. And we create a peanut prescription plan for you, to where you're out there and you're putting on a fungicide. And if it's got a 2-week residual, then 2 weeks after that first application, you're out there with another fungicide. We basically have to keep them sprayed up until just a few moments before harvest, so that those leaves don't drop and we don't get all those nasty leaf spots. Finally, there's a disease out there called white mold, which is caused by a fungus, Sclerotinia ralphsii. And what you'll notice when you're looking out at the field is that there'll be some yellow plants or some stunted plants that just don't look very healthy. And if you go and you push the leaves aside and you look down at the base of that stem, you'll probably end up seeing like a white cottony growth. And that white cottony growth is actually fungal mycelium from the fungus Sclerotinium. And if you were to slice that stem open, you would probably find little hard black pellets, almost looks like mouse poop, inside that stem. And that's called a sclerotium. And it's just a survival structure of that fungus. So it survives as that little hardened black mass, that sclerotium, in the soil for a very long time. So unfortunately, rotating away from peanut doesn't work that well, because you could go away from peanut for 2 years and then come back to that field to plant peanuts, and those sclerotia will basically germinate and that fungus will be present again. So lots of disease issues with peanut, but alas, we still grow really good peanuts here. So that's kind of cultivating the plant throughout the year. Now, what happens when we're getting ready to harvest these guys? So this is another thing, another service that Extension can provide, is grading your peanuts. So peanuts they're not like corn, where corn flowers and it puts out its ear of corn all at once. You know when it happens, it's only one time and it's done. peanuts will create peanuts and keep making peanuts for a moment in time, maybe several weeks. So there's going to be a time where you have a little bit of peanut formation, a lot of peanut formation, and then you're going to get to a point where some of the peanuts that were very first formed on that plant are going to detach from that peg. So when you pull the plant up, the peanuts are going to remain in the soil. So there's this peak that you want to target in order to harvest your peanuts to make sure you have the most peanuts on that plant. And when you pull it up, they're going to remain attached to that peg. So that's what this picture is showing, is an extension agent grading peanuts. So we asked the grower to go out into their field and collect 200 peanuts from several different locations within the field. So 200 peanuts total, but you're taking it from plants throughout different locations in the field. And then we take those peanuts and we actually use a power washer to blast off the outer shell. And then, as you can see in that picture, when that happens, some of the peanuts will be really white, some will be brownish, tannish brownish, and then they get almost black. So the black ones were the ones that were first formed. They're the oldest, the whitest, and the white ones have just recently formed. So there's kind of some math, and you use this little chart, you place the peanuts on there, and then depending on how many peanuts you have in each column, then it estimates how many days left until optimal harvest. So we want to get that optimal harvest time out there so that we can ensure our greatest yield. So how do we harvest peanuts? Well, like I said, the peanut actually forms underground, which is crazy. So in order to harvest the peanuts, we have to dig them up and flip them upside down. So those peanuts are exposed to the air and the sunlight. And so that's what you're seeing here is a huge peanut digging machine, which is really fascinating to watch in person. It comes along, scoops the plant up, turns it upside down, and then lays it gently back on the ground. So it usually takes about 3 days of that plant laying there for it to dry down. When you put that plant into a storage bin, you want it to be at about 10% moisture or less. Anything more than that will create a great environment for fungal rot. And so you'll put your peanuts in storage, and if it's greater than 10% moisture, they'll just rot on you. So after they've laid there for 3 days and they're dry, basically you come along with a combine, and that's what you're seeing in this picture. It scoops up those dug up peanuts, and it removes the peanut from the rest of the plant. And so all you're left with is the peanut in the shell, and it spits the debris out of the back end. As you can see, all the leaves and stems and everything else it didn't collect comes out the back end, and it just collects the peanuts in that bin. It's pretty cool to watch these machines work. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And so, where do we sell our peanuts to? We sell them all over the place, but we sell them for peanut butter, for candy peanuts, for roasted, for boiling, usually green peanuts that are harvested a little bit earlier in the season. We can extract the peanut oil from peanuts. We can use the hulls as cattle feed, and there are other products. But we'll let Martha kind of dive into how you can use them in your diet and the nutritional components of peanuts. So with that, I will hand it back over to Martha to take you on home.
Thanks, Kevin. I saw my favorite peanut brittle in there in that picture, and I didn't put that in here when we get to that, but I'm Martha Maddox. Again, I'm your Family and Consumer Science Agent here in Alachua County, and I'm going to talk basically like I did with watermelon about some basic peanut facts, safety tips, and how to use peanuts. And I'll have to admit, I was like Kevin. When my husband brought me down here to his home state, and we were talking about peanuts, I said they grow underground. Well, he thought I was totally, he just couldn't believe it. He took, he's a Floridian, and he's farmed for all these years. Took me over to his cousin's peanut farm, and I was so intrigued, Kevin, with seeing the peanuts, growing underground and learning about them. And yes, if you have not seen peanuts harvested with one of those machines, that is a must. But anyway, let's talk about some peanut facts. Keep in mind, what I am mainly talking about when I talk about the nutritional value is the raw peanuts, the raw green peanuts. Peanuts are a good source of protein, fiber, and they're a heart-healthy fat. They are legumes, and they're members of the pea family. Legumes can lower your cardiovascular risk by reducing your blood pressure and improving your glycemic control. Now, keep in mind, this is raw peanuts, because the more you add salt to these peanuts, that is not good for reducing your blood pressure, because sodium raises your blood pressure. They are a good source of manganese, and they're important for healthy bones and muscles. And it takes about 540 peanuts to make that 12-ounce jar of peanut butter. So Kevin, you got to get out there and get the peanuts, gathering them. I found this on the National Peanut Board website, and I thought it was very interesting, about 6 reasons to choose peanuts. And I thought this picture was very appropriate for what we're talking about. Protein is the #1 reason, because in the end I'm going to talk about the MyPlate, and part of that is protein. And peanuts have more protein than any nut out there. They are the nutrients. They're a good source of vitamin E, magnesium, niacin, and copper. And they're an excellent source of manganese. The fiber is a good source that helps keep us full. So if we eat peanuts as a snack in between meals, it's going to help keep us full. It's also going to improve our blood cholesterol level, and that's eating in moderation. You don't want to overeat there. They're low carb, they're very low in sugar and carbohydrates, and they support, again, the blood glucose control, and they provide sustained energy. So peanuts give us a lot of energy. They are bioactives, such as the resistols, and they reduce the inflammation and the risk of certain cancers. And they are healthy fats, like Kevin was talking about when they extract for peanut oil. It's the peanut oil is healthy because it's high in mono and polyunsaturated fats that reduce blood cholesterol. Now, what is the nutritive value of a raw peanut? And I am going to tell you, if you're buying a salted peanut or a seasoned peanut or a honey glazed peanut, you need to look at the nutrition facts, the food label, and look at serving size. The serving size will tell you the amount of servings, and that is what the calories and all this information is based on. So 1/4 of a cup, if it says 1/4 of a cup of peanuts, 1/4 of a cup of raw peanuts has 214 calories, 18 grams of fat, 8 grams of carbohydrates, 9 grams of protein, and 2 milligrams of sodium. So when we start adding sodium and seasonings, it will change the nutritive value of sodium and the other nutritive values of the peanuts. Now, when you go to shop for your peanuts, you want to buy raw peanuts in bulk, and that will save you money. Well, where do you purchase raw peanuts in bulk? At some stores, they carry it at your local farmer's market or at your producers, your peanut producers. And this is during the peak harvest of peanut season. You should keep your raw peanuts in an airtight container in the refrigerator. Now let's talk about some cooking ideas. How are we going to cook these peanuts, or what are we going to do with them? Well, you can roast peanuts and add to an addition to salads, stir fries, desserts. You can flavor your raw peanuts with spices like paprika, curry powder, cinnamon, Cajun seasoning, and also different crushed peppers if you like that fiery, kicky spice taste. And you roast them or fry them. You can also flavor them with herbs such as garlic, rosemary, dill, chives, or you can use the different herbal oils and then roast them or fry them. Now, when I talk about oven roasted peanuts, I'm going to preheat my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to bake unshelled peanuts for about 20 to 25 minutes, or shelled peanuts for 15 to 20 minutes. And I'm going to make sure I stir these during the cooking process. Now let's talk about some different ways that you can eat peanuts. Now Kevin already talked about peanut brittle, and of course everybody knows we have peanut butter. Well, our typical peanut butter and jelly sandwich that we all loved, how about grilling that? That's really good. This has become a delicacy to me, and I had never had them. Kevin, did you ever have boiled peanuts before you come to Florida?
Oh no.
I didn't either. And when Danny told me, you want some boiled peanuts on our trip down? I said, you got to be joking me. Well, I fell in love with them. Had to watch them though, because boiled peanuts are very, very high in sodium because all it is raw peanuts, green peanuts, put in water with salt, brought to a boil. And yes, the salt absorbs into the peanuts. This is a real good favorite of mine, a peach salsa. You take peaches, onions, peppers, and peanuts and marinate it all together. A peanut sauce over noodles. Squash and peanut curry is very good. One of mine and my daughter's favorite is the Thai chicken peanut lettuce wraps. You take lettuce and noodles, rice noodles, and peanuts and carrots and chicken and wrap it up in lettuce, and it's a delicious, delicious meal. At the holiday times, the simple peanut butter cookies with 3 ingredients can't be beat, or my little granddaughter's favorite, the peanut butter blossoms with the chocolates for the chocoholics. A good, soft, moist peanut butter cake. Anytime you want to reduce the liquid in a recipe, you can add peanut butter or applesauce, and it will add moisture to a cake. Also, peanut butter pie is very good. Your spicy peanut chicken stir fry. Any of your stir fries that you use, you can add peanuts right at the end and add some crunch to it. Or peanut soup. I was very reluctant to try peanut soup, but try it. You might like it. Now we've talked about watermelon and peanuts, but I want to also go over and capture some of the other Alachua County ag commodities. And these are just a few. There's several more. You have your strawberries, your cucumbers, your squash, your green beans, your peppers, your eggplants, your cabbages, your tomatoes, your blueberries, onions, all of these are local produce. Make sure when you're buying produce, try to support our local farmers, our local commodities. And these are the fresher products. Shop local. And when you're planning your meals, go by the dietary guidelines of the MyPlate. And that means half of your plates should be fruits and vegetables. So you're going to need to shop local to support those local farmers. Also, you want to have your dairy, and you want to make sure that half of your plate are whole grains, and you want to go lean with protein. And if you want to substitute your peanuts for your protein, you can, because peanuts are proteins. We hope you have enjoyed our webinar today and that you support the Alachua County local ag producers. Thank you, Dr. Sanchez and Dr. Corliss and Dr. Sanders for joining us today on our webinar for Food Checkoff Week with Farm Bureau.